Hey everybody, welcome to the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. It is Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, and the cover of the New York Times this morning, there is no voter fraud, and yet the Trump administration has continued making baseless allegations of voter fraud, and multiple members of the Trump administration dedicated to propagating this narrative, filing lawsuits across the country that are not holding up the Biden transition. And then, of course, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's alarming authoritarian rhetoric yesterday. This morning, I'll have constitutional scholar and political scientist Miranda Yaver, a favorite of the program, on to discuss these ongoing legal challenges, see where people should be worried and where people can just take a breath of relief. We'll talk about this and all of today's top headlines. All of this and more on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program. Let's get into today's top headlines. This morning, the vote totals are coming in, and it looks as though the House Democrats have maintained their majority, and now all eyes are on the top two U.S. Senate races in Georgia, which are going to a runoff. And there is one outstanding Senate race in Alaska with Al Gross, the independent challenging Republican there, that the candidate is saying he has a chance of winning. The vote totals are coming in. This is a state that absentee ballots only started being counted yesterday. So we're keeping our eyes on that race as well. John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock, the two Democrats running for the Georgia seats in the Senate. The GOP Senator Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania and Governors Charlie Baker and Larry Hogan from Massachusetts and Maryland are calling on Donald Trump to cooperate with the Biden transition. A couple more Republican names to throw onto the list during an alarmingly quiet time by the GOP. Conservative members of the Supreme Court projected yesterday during hearings on the Affordable Care Act that they will not strike down the law in its entirety. We'll talk to Miranda Yaver about this morning and get her take on that. And Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has backed Trump's baseless voter fraud claims, offering a $1 million reward for evidence of voter fraud in his state, though I'll note that Texas went to Trump in this election, much to the surprise of many. So not exactly sure. It's like we have one step forward, one step back with these Republicans and their silence. So we're going to continue to keep our eyes on that. But I'd like to welcome to the program Miranda Yaver. She's a constitutional scholar, political scientist, and a favorite of the program. Good morning, Miranda.
Good morning, Alex. How are you doing?
Oh, social distancing and existential dread, because we could only really enjoy this election for a couple days, the results of the election for a couple days before Republicans and the Trump administration started casting doubt over the outcome. I wanted to have you on this morning so we could talk about some of these legal challenges that are going on. But Miranda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. This is the first time we've seen each other since it was officially declared. It was a big relief, obviously, getting to see the election officially called after several days of waiting. As a health policy researcher, I was relieved with how the healthcare oral argument went yesterday. But, like you, I'm very nervous about all of the efforts to delegitimize the election.
Yes, very nerve-wracking. But yeah, I guess it is the first time we've seen each other since it's been a long few days. But yeah, so congratulations on the victory. It's a very, very good day to be an American on last Saturday. Where were you when you found out?
I was with a friend in Long Beach, and then I went to the downtown LA celebration. How about you?
How was that downtown LA celebration?
It was fun.
At Pershing Square.
Yeah, so I got there a little bit late. But they were marching, and the crowd sort of kept. I first thought it was a really small crowd, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and everyone was just really positive, and yeah, it was a good. It felt like the right place to be.
Same. Sorry that I didn't catch you there. But got some comments chiming in this morning. Daniel Goff says, I love your show. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate you chiming in every day. If you're watching this broadcast on the HAPS platform or on the HAPS app or on the HAPS website, you can actually award it midstream. Just click the award button, let us know you're enjoying it, or leave us a comment anywhere, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, wherever you are. Let us know what you're thinking. We'll bat around with you. Chime in, let us know where you're watching from. But Miranda, with some good reason, we haven't really been able to get super comfortable too early, too comfortable, because there's folks in the Trump administration who are saying and doing some alarming things. Yesterday, I played some video of the press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, being preempted, cut off on Fox News because she started perpetuating baseless voter fraud allegations. And then there was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo yesterday. This comment that he made during a press conference really made the rounds and sort of alarmed a lot of people. I think I got 10 text messages in succession as soon as the news of this broke, and I wanted to play it for our viewers now. This is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo discussing the election results of the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Miranda, what the hell is going on? Why on earth would Secretary of State Mike Pompeo say that there will be a smooth transition into a second Trump administration in direct contradiction to the projected election outcome? Why? What's your thoughts on this?
So there were some people who were rushing to claim, oh, he was just joking. But I don't think that the peaceful transition of power is something that someone, especially someone of that level, should be joking about. It didn't really seem like it was a joke. And if a peaceful transition of power is a joke to the Secretary of State, that's not good. And Mike Pompeo, unfortunately, wasn't the only really high level official who was making such a claim, because Mike Pence also said that he, enjoyed presiding over the Senate and expected that he would be continuing to do so, implying that he thought that he would be in the role of vice president beyond January 20. And so, there are some people who seem really eager to say, oh, well, these are just jokes, you're being too serious. But election legitimacy is serious stuff, and we need to treat it as such.
Yeah, I mean, it was a joke when Donald Trump told us to inject bleach in order to cure the coronavirus. I guess it's a joke that someone like Mike Pompeo, who, by the way, is the Secretary of State, who is responsible for being the lead liaison to the world and being the figurehead for the country to the world. And one of the primary things that the Secretary of State does is to ensure free and fair elections around the world, where people look to us to set the standard for American democracy, sets the standard across the globe. Even though I'll note our elections integrity ranks last amongst all Western democracies, it is still widely respected across the globe, and people look to us. So I thought it's at best irresponsible and at worst alarming, because it sounded to me like he was promising a smooth transition to a to a second Trump administration as if he knows something that we don't. Did you hear it like that at
Yeah,
all?
I mean, it definitely he definitely di- he seemed to be almost like trying to forecast what was going to happen. Like, hey, we're going to count all the votes and then we're going to have a smooth transition to the next Trump presidency. And it's just like that's really not how it works. And for someone who is at that high level, like you said, representing our democracy to the rest of the world is really horrifying. A peaceful transition of power is a cornerstone of democracy, and if we have our Secretary of State making jokes about it, that's really not reflecting well on us in both domestically and internationally.
Yeah, we got some comments chiming in. Janet Miller says this person is crazy about Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. I'm sure because I know her and we love each other. So, yes, Mike Pompeo disgraces the United States, says Daniel Goff, and is guessing. Daniel's guessing that he wants to be president. I'm not sure, but some of these folks definitely want to hold on to their jobs, which is why people who otherwise we might not have agreed with their policy have had respected careers in their roles in politics. Like Kayleigh McEnany, I don't agree with. But she's been on CNN as a political commentator in the past, where she took stances I didn't agree with, but she was still on the sane side of things. And now this feels like we see career politicians like Mike Pompeo just actively circumventing democracy. Very, very troubling. I don't know if he's just trying to hold on to his job or what.
Well, one
And
thing
I
that
know
I
we know
think
that.
is making it tough is that people are already, if Trump were going to go away after this election, I think that people would be more willing to accept the legitimacy of this election. But because they're already speculating about Trump 2024, I think they're really hedging their bets and feeling like, well, we can't afford to anger the person who might continue to be the face of the Republican Party. So there's incentive to go along with this BS.
I mean, you're a constitutional scholar, a political scientist, Miranda. Can somebody run for president from prison?
Well, I don't think he's going to be in prison, but
Just
yeah,
jokes.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it would be a first to see, an impeached and defeat. It wouldn't be the first person to win after, to run and win after having been defeated. But he would be the first one to do so after having been impeached. So who the heck knows what's going to happen with Trump in 2024? But I do think that the fact that he is not projected to just sort of go into his life as a private citizen, but rather to stay in Republican Party politics is part of what's motivating people like Mike Pompeo, people like Mike Pence, people like the senators, GOP senators, Mitch McConnell, to continue to enable and empower these theories of fraud that really corrode our notion of election legitimacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Showtime D Wiz is chiming in to say we expect this behavior in a dictatorship, but not America. If you're watching this broadcast and you're enjoying it, leave us a comment or give us an award on the HAPS platform or website. Let us know that you're enjoying it, and we'll read it on air. So if anyone is very alarmed about this rhetoric that's coming out of the Trump campaign and feeling like, oh my God, we're approaching a constitutional crisis, then there's President-elect Joe Biden. Let's hear what Joe Biden had to say yesterday when asked about this resistance to the peaceful transfer of power. They will. They will. I don't know. Did you find some comfort in like the Joe Biden's continued calm demeanor? I mean, he really just gives you a little warm hug with his sort of grandfatherly, statesman-like responses to these things.
Yeah, it's watching Biden's responses. It's presidential. It's calm. It isn't preying on emotion. It's just responsible. And I was joking with a friend of mine that reading the readout of his call with Canada, I was bored by the second sentence because it was just so normal. And I was just like, what is this feeling of being bored by politics? This is fantastic.
We got some comments chiming in on Twitter, on Reddit. Reddit, you guys are always on it with some of your comments. I never know what to think. But we got
that President Trump wasn't impeached because it didn't make it past the Senate. President Trump was impeached. Impeachment happens in the House. Conviction happens in the Senate.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. And yes, Lindy, Showtime Twist. It's in the history books now. Go look. So we will keep our eyes on this. Miranda, before we go, I want to ask you about this hearing on the Affordable Care Act that happened yesterday, which people were very concerned. It appears as though the conservative members of the Supreme Court are projecting in their line of questioning that they do not intend to overturn the entirety of the act. Will you explain that?
Yeah. So first of all, there were two questions that are at the heart of this Affordable Care Act lawsuit. One of them is, since the mandate penalty is now $0, can it be interpreted as constitutional? And the second question, the big question, is if the mandate is unconstitutional, now that it's a $0 tax, can it be severed from the rest of the act, or does the entire act need to be ruled unconstitutional? It's altogether possible that the Supreme Court is going to rule that the mandate is unconstitutional, but members of the conservative coalition signaled that they did believe that it was severable from the rest of the act, meaning that they could say that the mandate is unconstitutional, but the rest of the Affordable Care Act is going to stay in place. So Brett Kavanaugh said that, not exactly a big liberal, a Trump appointed Supreme Court justice, said that it was a clear case from a severability standpoint, that it was clear that pretty clear that the mandate could be severed from the rest of the act. And John Roberts, the Chief Justice, who wrote the main healthcare decisions, said that to overturn the Affordable Care Act when Congress wouldn't was, quote, not our job. So there are at least 5 votes to preserve the core of the Affordable Care Act. And I think it'll probably be a 6-3 decision, if not 7-2.
Now, what does it mean exactly that the mandate would be partitioned off? What would be the practical effects of that for people?
Basically none, because the mandate right now is $0, and so it's basically just unenforced. And so, it would essentially mean that it would be, it could potentially be harder to restore the mandate with a Democratic Congress, but that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. Basically, what we had initially said was that the mandate was essential to the Affordable Care Act, but then when they took away the penalty in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, we realized that the Affordable Care Act, there's been some reduced enrollment, but for the most part, it's worked pretty well. And so the Affordable Care Act can function without it, and we're seeing that right now. And so I think that if the mandate were struck, it would be essentially status quo, and the rest of the act, I think, is very safe.
Okay, well, stay tuned on this space, and we'll have Miranda on, as usual, on Friday. Every Friday, she joins us. So thanks, Miranda, for joining the broadcast this morning. Where can people find and support you?
I'm on Twitter at Miranda Yaver. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Very good. This has been the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of Now. I'm Alex Mahanager. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this program, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it. Visit me at haps.tv/@Alex. Or you can award the program midstream on the HAPS platform or website, and let us know that you're enjoying it. We will be back tomorrow with Reverend Billy Honor from the New Georgia Project, who's on the ground in Georgia ahead of these Georgia Senate runoff elections, registering voters, and talking about his work and the work of the New Georgia Project to restore democracy and end voter suppression in the state of Georgia. Thank you, Showtime G Wiz, for chiming in to say you enjoy the show. And thanks so much for joining. Thanks, Miranda, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye-bye.